Yes, very important for you that is related to the English language that we'll be studying. But 14 Ds, as I told you, is the package of my today's talk on the topic of leadership communication skills. Leadership communication skills, dear audience, very important to clarify our understanding, and I will cover my topic under these three important headings: dimensions that I'll be taking into discussion, and then would be the traits of 14 D's personalities, how the leaders are supposed to have three traits, and there are certain governing laws. How many laws are there, and which are those laws which govern the traits that a personality has? And then, of course, 14 Ds means 14 dimensions of a personality. That is very important. Dear audience, let us start with the first D1. D1 dimension. Dimension 1. Dimension 1 means that leadership is supposed to have first dimension, and that is the trait of discipline. If the discipline is there, then it is very, very important for a leader to ensure this quality, this trait, and this very, very important trait in his personality, discipline. And discipline, if inculcated in his personality, in her personality, so that is to be supported by what? It's very, very important. It's consistency. And then 14D, first hurriedly we have to just dimension 1, dimension 2, dimension 3, dimension 4, dimension 5, dimension 6, dimension 7, dimension 8, dimension 9, dimension 10, dimension 11, dimension 14 to 12, dimension 13, dimension 14. So these are the 14 dimension through which we will have our clear understanding about the traits. How many traits are there? Again, parallel to each dimension, there are 14 traits in a personality, without which a leader cannot be called a leader. And the 14 traits are: first trait is discipline trait, second trait is determination, third trait is direction, fourth trait is decision making, fifth trait is diligence, sixth trait is devotion, then is emotional discipline, then is dependability, and next is adaptability, and then is the depth of thought, dignity, dialogue, discernment, and duty consciousness. These are the 14 very important traits for a leader, and the leader is supposed to have these 14 traits, without which a leader cannot get success in his routine talk, in his routine doings, in his routine duties, whatever is there. So, this is in fact the 14D formula. But very important thing, that if all these 14 traits are there in a leader, the leader is supposed to ensure the support, governing laws. For example, the leader has got discipline, and he is to be governed by a law of consistency. That is very important. That is prerequisite for the leader to ensure his discipline, that the systematically discipline is functional, it is smoothly in line with the support and with the control of this governing law of consistency that is there. And second is determination. Determination is supported by the persistence. The law of persistence is there to ensure that determination in a leader is smoothly functional. Then is the direction. Direction, it's again purpose. The law of purpose is there, prerequisite for this governing law, which is to ensure the functionality of direction. The trait is functional in the leader's personality, and that is really giving dividends to the outcome of all the actions, decisions, and so many things a leader is doing to accomplish his mission. Then is the decision making. The second law, second trait is their decision making, for which the timeliness is important. The timely decisions are very, very important. If the decisions are delayed, it means it is half failed. As the saying goes, the decision delayed is decision failed, half failed. Then is diligence. Diligence is, dear audience, very important because law of details are to be supported there for the laws of details, without which it is not possible for a leader to have this trait fully functional in his or her daily routine. Diligence, that is to ensure the support of this law of details. Minor and minutest details are there to be taken into consideration or taken into activated while diligently doing his or her duties. Dear audience, then as the next trait is devotion. What is devotion and how devotion is to be supported by which governing law? The law of commitment is there to ensure the devotion as a trait in a leader, or leadership trait. Devotion is accomplished or it is smoothly in function if the law of commitment is there. Law of commitment, without commitment, devotion does not get dividends. And then the next trait in a leader is emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is always supported by the governing law, that is control. Without control, the emotional discipline cannot be directed, cannot be smoothly ensured to be functional in the routine duties. After emotional discipline, the next trait there in a leader's personality is dependability. And dear audience, the dependability is supported by the governing law, trust. And if the trust is absent, the dependability is an effort in futility. It is without any result there in a leader's routine duties. Next is adaptability. Adaptability is always supported by the governing law of flexibility. Without flexibility, adaptability cannot be ensured in a leader's profile, in a leader's life, in a leader's action. Next trait in a successful leader is depth of thought. What is depth of thought? And the depth of thought is supported, if supported by reflection. I mean, the depth of thought as a trait is supported by reflection, that it's reflected somewhere in the routine duties of a leader. Only then the depth of thought as a prerequisite for leadership traits, leadership success, that is there, and it is always supported by the reflection. Next is dignity. Dear audience, dignity is very, very important for our budding leader. Leader cannot get himself or herself proved or worthy enough if there is no governing law of self-respect. Self-respect, without self-respect, this training trait or this leadership trait cannot be functional, cannot be ensured to succeed. And next is dialogue. Dear audience, dialogue is yet another trait in a leader without which it is just not possible. That governing law of clarity is the prerequisite for the success of dialogue as a trait in a leadership quality. Then is discernment and duty consciousness. Dear audience, all these traits and 13th and 14th, these are two concluding very important traits, two traits which ensure the governing laws separately to discernment is the judgment. If the judgment as governing as a governing law is not applied to discernment, to the trait of discernment in a leader, the success cannot be ensured. Duty consciousness is again important. Duty consciousness then is the it is the in fact the responsibility, the sense of responsibility, the realization of responsibility, without which it is not possible for a leader to become a successful leader.